All right, folks, we are excited to have Jim Bazzani from Caleb and Brown back on the show, fresh off the new partnership announcement with Ripple. We absolutely love to see it. And it's such a natural partnership, and the development here of Caleb and Brown into the US markets is what we want to focus on here in today's call. We're also going to talk maybe opening up to the UK here very soon. And we got the fresh update from Jim himself. Thank you for coming back. How you doing, brother?
I'm very good, thanks, Zach. Thanks for having me on. Exciting times in a lot of ways. Also, some frustrating times with the market, but I'm sure we'll touch on all of that.
Let's get right into it, Jim. Everybody wants to know, what does this Ripple partnership mean? What does this change for existing clients? And are things going to get even faster? Because every time I've withdrawn cash from your platform, it's arrived in my bank the next day every single time. So, how much faster can it get? Break it down for us, Jim.
It's been very a lot faster internally for clients, and so we announced the partnership as of last week, but it's something we've actually been working with Ripple on the back end for a while now. It wasn't just until last week that we decided to go fully public with it, but this has been in operation our back end for quite a while now. And as you said, it just helps speed up a lot of our internal processes, mainly the big one being client withdrawals. As you can imagine, we have so many people coming in and out of positions with us. A lot of them are still holding their crypto and custody them with us. A lot of them have done really well in this space, so they've decided to exit the market, but want to exit seamlessly and ensure that it gets into their bank account and flows quickly. So we've been working with Ripple now on a solution that helps expedite that process. And so we'll do all the security back end around withdrawal calls and what have you. But often at times, our banking partners in the US are working with a whole range of different banks all around the US. And so this helps speed up that process. And it's been great to work with the team. It's been a hit success almost from day one. And we're excited, hopefully, to do more with them in the future.
And can you speak to that? I mean, we now know their full stack includes custody, tokenization, stable coins, and Ripple Prime as well too, along with G Treasury. So any other, part of that partnership included in those offerings?
Yeah, I think a big part of any relationship with such a established player in this space like Ripple is to build that relationship early days and to see whether the use cases that they have work for what we need to do and what we need. And so for now that this has worked really well now for the best part of probably 6 months, and things have been processing a lot quicker on our back end for our clients, we're very open to exploring new things. And as you said, look, Ripple's been unbelievable almost in having their fingers in different areas of the financial world. And now they have capabilities in a whole range of areas. So it's something we're exploring and looking into. I probably can't mention too much more about that because that's more of our operations side working with them. But as you said, there's a lot more flexibility now and now we're looking internally around, hey, what can we prove here and here for our clients? And the fact that so many of our clients are really large XRP holders, Ripple believers and advocates, it just makes that partnership so much more seamless for us, but also it makes a lot more sense for them as well.
And I want to get your take, Jim, on this US market unlock, this Clarity Act. Let's just assume it's going to pass this year. Let's not get into how frustrated we are with the US politicians here doing the DC dance, as I like to call it. But Ripple helping you guys with integrating into the US banking system. So we're already seeing progress from Ripple and others kind of without the Clarity Act. But how big is this going to be? I mean, it seems to me, if you take the direct quote that we got from Brad Garlinghouse last week on CNBC, he said that right now they processed 16 trillion in payments were cleared last year in 2025, but almost none of that happened on blockchain, whether that's XRP Ledger or any blockchain for that matter. So we're at zero, going to 16 trillion. But your thoughts on the US market unlock and how well you guys are positioned? You guys have been leaning in to the US market since the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, the US market's without a doubt, in our opinion, the largest market for crypto. It's got the best innovation. And now it's got a government that's got clear support behind the crypto industry. Yes, it's a bit frustrating that Clarity Act's probably being delayed and taking longer than we imagined. no other country is even thinking about these kinds of regulations to help support this industry. And so I saw that quote and I thought it was really interesting because it's something that we're doing with them as well, right? What we are doing isn't really on chain at this point. Could it be in the future, of course? But right now, I think that shows a massive opportunity, not only for Ripple, but I say this all the time. Think of all the largest entities in the US, the largest tech businesses that want to start using whether it's stable coins in their operations, blockchain, or even wanting to hold more crypto on their balance sheet, but are looking for clear regulation around who provides the oversight for those assets. And so I think, yes, a lot of businesses like Ripple, a lot of government authorities as well are moving without the Clarity Act, almost because they need to. But there's no doubt that if and when we do get this Clarity Act passing, you're going to start to see more and more large players come into this space. The ones that have huge legal teams that are telling all these businesses, hey, you can't enter into this space or start to experiment in the crypto industry because we don't have clear clarity yet. Those are the kinds of businesses that I think will start to flow in. And as you said, I think it's a huge opportunity for Ripple, let alone because a lot of what they've done is off chain, but they've clearly got all the guardrails up to support a lot of businesses on chain. And so that's where the opportunity is.
And I want to break this down for everybody because this is a huge point of confusion, I think, in the XRP community, because a lot of people saw that and they're like, well, why haven't they moved to XRP yet? And I think that there's two parts to it. One, some of these flows have to be through, regulatory clarity is needed before they can move to a blockchain rail. And the other thing is they're only going to move those flows to blockchain in the XRP ledger if it makes sense. And I think let's get your insights as somebody who's actually partnered up with them. In these conversations and in this work with Ripple, they're not trying to force you to use the XRP ledger in every scenario. Where there's product market fit, where it makes sense, there's efficiencies, it's cheaper, it's faster, then XRP will be used, right? But
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
you speak to that, Jim?
Yeah, I think that's a great point because when we started these discussions, which was quite a while ago now, it was around building a solution that made sense for us and was tailor fit for our pain point. And I think that's probably one of the key differentiators is a lot of these businesses come to you, they want to throw their solution at you. For us, it was actually about working together around what does the solution look like. They were actually almost surprised by what our pain point was because they're so used to working more at an international scale, whereas we're very focused on the US market and our US clients. And so there's no doubt that I see it as a really big opportunity. They've won this space in what's the traditional finance world, but you're exactly right. These things aren't going to happen overnight for a lot of these traditional type businesses. They're not just going to move to blockchain straight away. But what is Ripple doing? Similar to what I said before, they're building the relationship. Maybe they're working on one test case like we've done with them that's been a success. And now it's about, okay, that worked really well. What else can we explore? What other pain points do we have, or what other ways are we looking to innovate? More so in the back end in terms of how we process payments. And so I think that's how they're approaching it as well. At least that's my understanding of it. So I see it as a really big opportunity that there's still so much more on-chain activity that they've clearly got the resource and capability to capture.
Okay, Jim. So in this partnership too, is there any other details that you can leave us with? You know that the community wants to know more. You can only say so much. We get that. But is there any last comments that you can make on where this partnership could develop into the future?
Yeah, I mean, it'll continue to develop, that's for sure. We are in discussions with them about future potential works, but I can't reveal too much more than that. I know that that's a bit of a tease, but we are actively chatting to Ripple, and we'll see what works we could do it together in the future as well.
Okay, one last thing on Ripple and their ecosystem right now with RLUSD and the growth that we've seen over there. Any comments on RLUSD? I mean, it's quickly catching up on the stablecoin ranks right now.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive because RLUSD hasn't actually been around for that long either. In the grand scheme of how long Tether and USDC have been around, and I do think the stablecoin industry is right for Ripple to really play a role in that area. It's very much largely dominated by those two large stablecoins, and so I think there's market share to be taken. And RLUSD is definitely rising in the ranks in terms of usage, in terms of how applicable it is across chain as well. So, we list RLUSD. We find that a lot of people are still holding and using it. as a form of payment, and certainly starting to become more commonly used compared to some of those two majors, which, especially if you look at Tether, isn't the most compliant stablecoin out there. And so I think they'll progressively start to lose more market share as more markets like the US become bigger in the crypto industry.
And one bonus question on the XRP ecosystem too. XRP Ledger Lending Protocol. Have you guys taken a look at this? Any plans to maybe implement that? Does it pique your interest?
Yeah, we're looking into a whole range of different ways to innovate, right? I think we have to be pretty selective on how we innovate in terms of the products that we offer for our clients, because in the past, we've been predominantly pretty risk off when it comes to just being a spot trading platform. But we've certainly got enough feedback at XRP Vegas and just speaking to our clients every day that they want more. And so lending is one we're looking at, whether that's on the XRP ledger or done outside of it. But even things like yield generation and staking, it's very difficult and trickier when it comes to XRP compared to some more natively staked assets. But these are all things that we're looking at, along with the geographies that we're looking into playing that in as well. So I'm sure we'll touch on that. But yeah, there's a whole range of things we're looking at as a business to ensure that our clients still want to continue to use us into the future.
Yeah, I'm going to be following it very closely, this XRP Ledger Lending Protocol, because I think it really opens up the XRP DeFi finally, right? Because like you said, there's no on-chain staking. There is no ability to generate yield on-chain currently. And so we have the AMM liquidity pools, haven't gotten much activity from that yet. And really, people want stability, right? The AMMs are
Yeah.
always changing, whereas this XRP Ledger lending protocol gets pretty interesting to me. And the ability for us to access it, decentralized, just accessing it through the XRP Ledger, but then also we know, platforms like Caleb and Brown and others are also going to be looking into, how could you streamline this for your clients that don't want to go to the XRP Ledger themselves, right? In the same fashion that we don't want to do self custody necessarily all the time. So we let you guys handle that, right? And I think that the XRP Ledger lending protocol starts to really open up the XRP yield opportunities, and many in our community have been waiting for that one. So, yeah, very excited for that. Now, Jim, UK, it's coming soon. What's the update?
Yeah, so the UK is a market that we've been really eager to get back into. When we first started this business back in 2016, 2017, the UK was one of our largest markets and one that we really enjoyed working with our clients in. And then the MiCA regulations, the anti-promotion stuff came in off the back of FTX, and we had to make a pretty difficult decision to exit. So we're really eager to re-enter that market. We think even though the government may be pretty restrictive towards crypto and has their opinions on it, the people in the UK love crypto. They're really big advocates of it. They see the clear use case and the technology behind it. So we have been working for quite a while. There's a lot of new things that we need to build specific to the UK market, and a lot of restrictions and warnings that need to be put on the website, a new website domain, all of these things that encompass entering back into a geography with new laws and regulations. We're in the process and in the final stages of building. I'm hopeful. I think we're towards the end of June here. We're hopeful that we'll go live within the next month or so. We've been probably teasing it for a while now. And as you can imagine, there's just more things that build up in terms of what we need to do. But we're really excited to re-enter that market. We think it's a great market to be in. And so the UK is a priority place for us, and we're hopeful that it'll be open again the next couple of months. And communications will go out about that when that goes live.
Awesome. Awesome. So for those in the UK, get ready. Caleb and Brown is about to flip the switch and go live. I know we already have a lot of people in our community that have reached out and are waiting for that one. So very exciting stuff on that. Now let's just talk about this market right now, Jim. Unless any final updates from Caleb and Brown that we need to know about.
None at this stage. I think one
Okay.
of the big things right now is if you're a client, make sure that you're still reaching out to your broker. I mean, this is a really important time for many people just to get their portfolio right. And I'm sure we'll chat about it shortly in terms of the market. But we found our clients, the ones that do really well with us over a long period of time, they're the ones that are staying active and across their portfolio when all interest is lost and everyone tells you that this space is dead. That's when we've found in previous bear markets where our clients perform really well and get the most out of their investments. So whether it's with us or even just the crypto space in general, whether that's watching Zach, continue to do so, because most of the time this is when people fall off and drop off. And a lot of the times this is when there's a lot of great buying opportunities. Obviously not financial advice. It depends on your portfolio, but we find our clients that stay active with us are the ones that perform really well when this market turns, and it will turn eventually. So that's probably the only reminder I'd give for people listening in, is to stay positive, and that things will turn around eventually.
Yeah, and I'm going to add on top of that, Jim, is something that I just talked about with my Discord group, but I'll say it here for everybody. On our to-do list, I would add checking your limit orders, making sure that you have your orders set, whether you're on Caleb Brown or any other platform. We just went down to 101 for XRP and liquidity got tight. The order book's thin down here, or at least it was so far, right? We're holding up a dollar for now. And some people didn't get their orders filled that were sitting at 101, 102, 103 on some platforms. We already got feedback in our community. I haven't heard anybody say that they didn't get their order filled at Caleb and Brown, though, Jim. So, can you remind everybody
That's good.
about why it's so important? One, to get the limit orders placed so they're sitting on the order book, and two, how you guys source liquidity from multiple venues.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think something like limit orders should be all encompassing of your portfolio strategy, and whether you're looking to accumulate certain prices. Being aware of those things and making sure they're set up is really important, and a key part of being an investor in crypto, because this space can be so volatile. And you're exactly right. Look, a lot of exchanges will only have limit orders up for a certain expiry or a certain duration before they expire. And so it's important to be aware of your orders actually still being open. Fortunately, with CMB, we keep those orders open forever, until they hit or you decide to cancel them. And as you mentioned, we source our liquidity in a range of different ways. And so we use OTC desks, we use liquidity pools, we use a whole range of different liquidity providers to ensure that we can get you the best price at that specific moment. And so if the market price for XRP is $1.01 or even a dollar, and you've got a limit order in, we'll fill that order for you. And so I think it's, again, though, whether it's with CMB or another exchange, important to be aware of what your strategy is, holistically, including the limit orders that you have set up, and making sure that they're still active, and making sure that you're comfortable with that entry price that you listed maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago. Is this
Mhm.
still a price in which you think there's a good entry point? Or do you think it may be going lower? Because things change and your thesis should change as the market changes as well.
And I want to remind everybody too, we mentioned the Ripple partnership, how it'll speed up the ability to withdraw. There currently are no withdrawal fees and no withdrawal limits, right, Jim?
Yeah, correct. And that's not something that we've ever had. We want people to be able to seamlessly exit the market when they wish. And that's a really big selling point, honestly, for our high net worth clients, that if they're looking to move, as an example, $500,000, not going to be able to do that in exchange all in one go. It's going to take them a really long period of time. And so we have a lot of high net worth clients that love that, that maybe don't use us for every part of our service. Maybe they custody assets themselves. But in most scenarios, when it comes to exiting, they'll do it through us because they don't have those limits and fees, as you mentioned.
And so when you look closely at the total transaction cost, this is where you guys are going to get taken advantage of in some instances, I might say. I've had this happen to me where I'm paying 5 to 8% when you include the trading fee and the spread that I was hit with. And then if you happen to make some money on the trade and then you go to hit withdraw and you have to hit the withdraw fee or the withdraw limit as well too. And so can you
Yeah.
talk about the spread?
Yeah, I mean, the spread is the sort of dirty secret in crypto. All exchanges will charge a really small transaction fee, and you think you're getting a great deal, but unfortunately, if you look at the price that you're actually able to sell your asset at or buy it at, it's either inflated or it's far less in terms of what you can sell it at, and that's simply because the exchanges make their most on those spreads, and at a period of high demand, those spreads are what we call dynamic spreads. They widen. And so they get worse as more people are looking to buy and sell, because the exchanges know they've got the demand for it. And then, as you said, there's all those additional costs on top of it. And especially for some other players that are charging things like custody fees, like all of those things add up. And so sometimes it's a little frustrating when people see our larger transaction fee, which is larger than exchanges, But when you factor in everything that you get as an all-encompassing service with CMB, and that you don't get charged things on the way out like withdrawal fees and limits, it's almost always competitive, if not a better rate. And so that's what we try and educate our clients on. But yeah, we totally understand that sometimes that can be a cause for concern for a lot of people.
And that can be the reason too why your order doesn't get filled when the price on the chart goes down to 101 and you had your order sitting at 101, but the exchange is trying to make sure they get that spread in there. Versus on your platform, if we go down there, right, that order is going to most likely fill. Right? And we saw during the 1010 liquidation event, eventually the sell side of the order book ran dry. And that's when we caught a bottom. And that was one of the most extreme examples, right? But the thing about your platform is that you know what your output is going to be from the trade the moment that you set that trade order. And that's so important, especially whether you're just dollar cost averaging as a long-term investor or if you actually are trading on a regular basis. In both instances, you need to understand all of those fees and costs. And whether you're on Caleb and Brown or another platform, people would be shocked if you actually go through the exercise of calculating it all up. And I encourage you to do so, right? Whether you use Caleb and Brown or not, you need to know. And it's something that I've done on every single platform that I use. And that's why, a larger portion of my bags are on Caleb and Brown. And like Jim says, especially for the high net worth individuals in our community, when you're moving those bigger amounts, you should be freely able to withdraw as much as you want. And even better when there's no fee on that, right? So as we prepare for the next bull run, and as we sit here at the bottom of the bear market, right? Sometimes it's hard to imagine that the market will come back, but it will. And so when it does come time to take those profits, when we're talking about the bigger amounts, this is where it'll really add up, right? If you're trading a few $100 on a little altcoin, you're not going to really care too much on the spread being 5 or 8% maybe. But when it comes to cashing out your big bags of XRP or other positions, we're talking 6, 7, 8 figures and beyond. And we know many people in our community are there. This is when that's going to make a huge difference, Jim. So, we just appreciate that transparency that you guys offer. And like you said, the free institutional grade custody. And let's just touch on that for those who don't know. Who do you guys work with on the custodial side?
Yeah, so we work with Fireblocks. They're one of the preeminent custody solution providers in this space, alongside a few other key major players. The key benefit there is that you get to leverage our cold storage custody solution free of charge, as Zach mentioned, but the assets are accounted for on a one-for-one basis. They sit in cold storage. They're untouched. We aren't moving them around or commingling them. And so that's why we can do one-for-one withdrawals at all times, right? Because we're not like an exchange where, unfortunately, like we've seen in the past with, say, FTX, those assets are getting moved around. They're not readily available. And that's why the dirty secret is that's why they impose limits on you, because they don't have all those assets available. The key difference here is that you get the cold storage benefit, but you have the accessibility element at all times to make a trade, withdraw those assets. Those assets don't move unless you decide to do something with them, whether that's in your own account in your portal or you email your broker with your trade request. And so, look, we're not sitting here and saying that you need to custody us and you can't use your own custody wallet. We encourage self-custody. We just know that a lot of clients and a lot of people don't want to deal with the stress of that because there are risks associated with becoming your own bank. There's a lot of benefits as well. But we just offer it as something that is here if you need it, because over the years, we've just found our clients have asked us time and time again for an institutional grade custody solution. And so that's why we've built it. We're not financially incentivized to hold your assets because we don't charge anything for that, as we mentioned. And so you should have that peace of mind that if you custody with us, those assets are there for you whenever you need. And so that's something that is also inclusive, I guess, of that one transaction fee that we charge, is that you get the custody solution if you want to use it for us. And so that's something that we've built out and really refined with Fireblocks over the last 5 to 6 years. And so I can comfortably say we've got a top tier custody solution that Fireblocks have developed, but we've actually built a lot of transaction authorization policies on top of as well. So again, a big value out of using a brokerage over an exchange.
And there's no limitations on withdrawing our crypto in kind. If we want to pull our XRP out, no problem, right?
Yeah, and so for a lot of people, they'll decide to move their XRP and custody with us, and then all of a sudden, some of them want to use their XRP for some DeFi application on the XRP ledger, or they want to move it out to do something with it. That's no issue at all. We'll withdraw it. We'll go through the correct security process to do that. But clients are freely able to use their XRP in kind outside of Scene B. Withdraw it, use it for whatever you need. And so it gives you the flexibility that even if you decide to custody with us initially, it's not like it's stuck with Caleb and Brown. You can move it out. You can do anything you want with your assets. They're effectively yours as the beneficial owner of them while they sit with Caleb and Brown.
Yeah. Yep. And so we just like to remind all the new folks of that. Many of you guys are already with Caleb and Brown. For me, it's just the best brokerage solution right now. And I wish that this type of service was offered when I first got into crypto, but we're so glad to have you now. Let's get final thoughts on this market. Michael Saylor is now a seller of Bitcoin. Okay. That's been interesting to watch. Ethereum, the outflows kind of continue over there. There's a little drama with the foundation. You know how much I love XRP and how great we think things look for XRP. But on the broader market, I mean, it's easy here at the bottom to, doom and gloom and say that this is the end. You get catalysts and headlines like this. Sailor's now a seller at the bottom. But long term, the fundamentals couldn't be stronger, Jim. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, and sometimes almost a frustrating thing is that there's so much positive action going on from a regulatory perspective, but also with a lot of adoption on chain as well for a range of different protocols. But as you said, look, the markets are performing well. I feel like a lot of them are bleeding. XRP, as you said, is near $1. Ethereum has bled out quite a lot in the last couple of months. We have seen some outliers. There've been some assets like maybe a hype that have outperformed the market. But for the majority of this crypto industry, it's been pretty downwards or sideways for the last 3 or 4 months. Now, there's a lot going on at a geopolitical level, which doesn't help risk on assets like crypto. We see the new Fed chair and Kevin Walsh that we thought would probably cut rates pretty quickly, that the economy is actually performing pretty well when it comes to jobs data and inflation. And so that's been put on hold. So there's a lot that is going on that is probably against crypto right now. But I think that there's still a lot of opportunity and assets are still holding up quite strong. That I think we'll get hopefully a second wind either end of this year or maybe next year. But as you said, I think if we get things like the Clarity Act, I think that'll be a really positive momentum forward. We're seeing a lot of advancements as well in the on-chain real world asset space. I think we're starting to see a lot of government regulations start to use blockchain and tokenize more assets on the blockchain. And so I still think there's a lot to be positive about. I think also something that we continue to forget while we're in it right now in this cycle is that, hey, look, a lot of the capital that would have gone to crypto is going into AI shares and speculative bets in the AI space. And people are viewing the AI space as almost a competitor to crypto. I think long term, the two will complement each other. And I think that'll actually excel the crypto space forward. But there's no doubt that in terms of capital and retail capital, especially, they're going to things that are more shiny right now, like AI shares, like this SpaceX IPO. And so I think sometimes people forget that is that a lot of the capital that would have been flowing to crypto is going into these other innovations and technologies that I have no doubt are going to flow back into crypto. They're just the flavor of the month right now, especially things like SpaceX where people want to jump into that. AI, I think, obviously has clear use cases, but I think long term, it'll complement the crypto space, not compete for it in terms of capital.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, all the liquidity went over there. I also just saw a stat that Americans did 165 billion worth of sports bets last year. I mean, if you're
That
going to
doesn't
be a
help.
degenerate, come to crypto, guys. Don't go sports bet. Be a degenerate in crypto instead. Come play over here. No, I joke. I mean, and really, I could speak. We could do a whole hour-long podcast on what that means for society, how much sports betting we've done, and that doesn't even include the prediction markets, right? But to your point, all of that liquidity, sports betting, prediction markets, AI, SpaceX, That's why XRP is at $1. That's why Bitcoin's at 60K. When you combine all of the liquidity that left to go seek other opportunity, and then the amount of leverage that had to be unwound from our space, right? With Saylor now having to sell, we've seen hedge funds, record losses. There was one hedge fund that was long Ethereum. They got wiped out for $750 million. And that from 10/10 until February brought in our lows. And then most of Q2, we had a little bit of a relief rally, but then we come back down here because, like you said, you still have geopolitical risk. We start to price in that maybe Kevin Warsh isn't going to be as favorable as possible. And then the SpaceX IPO, I think, really was the climax moment of this AI bubble, if that's what we want to call it, or at least AI having the spotlight. And as the spotlight comes back to crypto with the Clarity Act, the liquidity and inflows return as well too. And I think to close up for everybody, for me, I'm just not going to leave when I hear Brad Garlinghouse telling me that they settled and cleared 16 trillion and almost none of it moved to on blockchain or XRP yet. And that's because there's a lack of clarity, right? And they're slowly moving it over. They just finalized, Ripple Hidden Road and the prime brokerage. That just got finalized towards the end of 2025. So we're at zero. We're going to 16 trillion or somewhere in between. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving, Jim. I'm not leaving XRP. I'm not leaving, some of these other plays where they're focused on a real utility. You talked about Hyperliquid having a moment. It's showing you that when there's a real carve out use case and utility, it can still get attention. It can still get inflows even during a bear market. So just imagine what's coming when we go back into a full blown bull run. I'm going to stick around for that. Final thoughts from you, Jim.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a great way to end on it, right? Sentiment is at an all-time low. I think we're in the greed fear index. We're in extreme fear right now. And I can speak towards our brokerage. There's a lot of clients that are working still with us every day. There's a lot of clients that are not interested in crypto right now. And so our inbound has dropped off. And as a business, we're the busiest and people are buying the most when Bitcoin hits its all-time high. And so you can just realize how illogical that is when it comes to portfolio performance and what is a good buy versus a bad buy. That's literally buying at the top. And so sometimes human nature gets in the way and emotions get in the way of what is a clear logical play. And so that's why I mentioned towards the start of this interview, it's always important to be across what your portfolio looks like. See whether there's a good point to accumulate. But no doubt, if you're invested in this space, you should continue to stay involved in it because there's still so much exciting stuff happening. And yes, it's hard to stay up and about when the price is not performing well. But as I said, this is when a lot of shrewd investors are making smart decisions and not letting their emotions get in the way of their conviction and their belief in certain assets. And so, yeah, it's an interesting time, but I think we'll certainly see the other side of it and look back towards this interview and probably wish we maybe bought some more, but who knows?
I think you're right. And it's a great time to speak with your broker too, right? Don't wait till we're back into a full-blown bull run and then you're trying to develop an exit strategy with your broker. And now's the
Yeah.
time to get on the phone. Now's the time to schedule that one-on-one call with your broker while they're not as busy, you're not as busy, and you have time to be unemotional as you develop your plan. And I hope that we all took notes from the 2025 bull run, right? And this last cycle. There were some lessons to take home from that one. And you better believe last cycle wasn't the same as the 2021 cycle. And the next cycle here in, 3 to 4 years won't be the same as the 2025 one. So those targets probably need to be adjusted. You need to make sure that your strategy is dialed in, and scheduling that conversation with your broker is a great way to make sure that you're ready for that next bull run. And Jim, we're going to put your email in the description of this video. And so for anybody onboarding or any questions, concerns, we're going to put Jim's email in there. And you guys light Jim up. Let him know if you need help, and Jim's going to take care of you. This is one of the best teams when it comes to servicing crypto investors. And Jim, is there anything else that the community needs to know?
No, all I would say is, look, we absolutely love working with this community. We have a great relationship with Zach that's been forged over a number of years now. And so These onboarding calls are probably not something I offer to every partnership community, but this is one that is a no-brainer. We love working with you guys. And so if you're new, you haven't worked with us before, you're not quite sure whether to get started, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm doing either calls or we can email and answer any questions you may have, and hopefully get you on board and started working with us. And so thank you very much again for having me on, Zach. Always a pleasure. And hopefully we've got a lot of exciting things to talk about again in the future when I come on next.
Oh, absolutely. And guys, it's free too. So hit that link down below. You can sign up and create your account for free. Jim's email will be there to help you as well. Huge shout out to my personal broker, Jake Boyle. We love Jake and the whole team over there at Caleb and Brown. They're going to take care of you guys, and you're going to appreciate the service. So thanks for coming back on, Jim. Cheers to surviving the bottom of the bear market. Hopefully, we're making our way out from here. Hopefully. But we always appreciate your insights and the service to our community. Thank you again, Jim.
Thanks, Zach.
All right. On the way out, if you guys could help us out by liking this video, hyping it up, and sharing it out far and wide, we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in the next one. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.